Welcome back, and thank you for being with us on the Modise Network, talking to the representatives of the Democratic Alliance Student Organization, the South African Student Congress, as well as Economic Freedom Fighters Student Command. Now, the issue of quality of education, what does South Africa need to do to improve the quality of education? I'm going to move some of the issues in a much quicker way now, this time. What do we do with education?
Well, I think we have been clear, particularly as SASCO, in terms of the type of education that we want. Because we said we want free, quality, and compulsory education. But when we speak of free, quality education, we're speaking of an education that is free of the market influence. But we must have an education that is able to respond to the skills needed by the economy, and also to produce graduates that are patriotic.
Do we have that?
Country.
Why don't we have that? Because, you know, the talk about what we want keeps going on, and everybody knows what people want, isn't it?
Just to come in, Tim, if we were to merge the two main issues of young people today, which is education and unemployment, to some level, I think there is some relationship. As we know today, there are 3.7 million young people, actually people who are not employed in South Africa. Now, the half of that number, we must say, are graduates. So now, our universities are not preparing graduates who are ready for work, and there's no coordination between the workplace and the education that we are giving in the higher education sector today. Also, as I had said earlier, the issues of TVETs. The issues of TVETs is just something which is there. Actually, there are like over 50-something TVETs in the country, but those TVETs, there's no coordination, and what is taught, the curriculum, doesn't speak to what the market is.
The employees who are not going to be employers, who have been trained to be, to be buyers. When you look at how a young person, I will give an example in China, a country like China, because as the EFF, we aspire to be like China in how they run their affairs.
Yeah, and remember, they're also one-party state, right?
Of course. Yeah. So when you look at the quality of their education, a grade 7 child can produce a watch, right? They know that immediately after this particular institution or grade, this person will be able to go and plow back in the economy. I want to agree with him with the question of TVET colleges, because they are just useless in South Africa. They are serving no purpose. And I can tell you now, the TVET colleges are being shut down. Yeah. Many of them, because they go there and play casino the whole day. There are no lectures, there are no books.
I'm happy it's you who's saying that, because it's almost like a holding place for young people who don't have much to do, and then keep them busy for a while and then hope for the best with them. Let's talk about the safety issues in the country, the levels of crime, particularly crimes against women, as you mentioned earlier about femicide. And it seems to be young women who are abducted, who are subjected to all the horrors of crime, including murder. Recently, we were told that in 1 month, 62 women were killed by people who know them or have relationships with them. Why is this such a big, an increasing phenomenon in South Africa, that your own cohorts, your own peers, your own colleagues in the organizations and elsewhere should be subjected to this terror?
Well, I think when we speak about this high rate of femicide, we must be able to relate it back to our upbringing and the culture and the lack of patriotism amongst our citizens. Perhaps we can blame the education and also the setup, because and I think you would agree with me that when back then in the days, a child was raised by community and molded into, not in our days now where we are just individual and it's more about surviving. But of course, it's also a bad culture of, it's patriarchy
Let me interrupt
refusing
you and
to.
put it differently. The problem is there. We know we have a problem.
Yes.
What are we going to do?
Well, I think, as I was suggesting earlier on, that it must never be a politicized concept where the EFF will say or the student command will say, no, we have a better way of dealing with it. The same way we have fought the fees must fall struggle. We ought to come together, particularly as young leaders of this society, to say we are going to reject anyone who seems to be, abusing our women. And we must take a step about that, a rigorous stance on top of that, because, well, I think apart from it being a usual thing, there are, if you listen to the excuses out there of these people, you will be shocked, and it takes you back to the kind of education that our people are getting when they spend most of their time, which is school.
Do you think that this should maybe be part of the political education, at least, that takes place within your organizations?
More than anything else, I think it's a community thing. More than the political thing, because the community forms you. You go into a political space with a form of values. So if you lost it in the community, it's too late in the political sphere. One thing we have witnessed is that male children, they are very broken and they lack sense of identity. They don't know who they are. Part of that is the family setup that they grew up in most cases. Some of them, they grew up without their fathers. So these are the things that perhaps we need to start having conversation at the community level. And if we fail there, I think at the political level, it's too late.
And also, I think we must also check, because we might be naive of facts here. We must also do some research on other countries that are doing well economically.
I wanted to ask this final question,
Yes.
because we're ending this whole thing, that, as South African youth go about their daily lives, whether they are members of organizations or not, I sometimes get a sense that they are not aware that there's another world out there, that this world is also marching on, is also dealing with its own problems. Now, what do you want to see South Africa become in the next 5 years? Let me start again with you very briefly. I'm giving each of you 30 seconds.
Well, we seek an egalitarian society. We want the people of South Africa to be active and participate in this economy. We want this high level of unemployment to reduce drastically in the next coming 5 years. And we are of the view that next year, since it's general elections, young people must go out there and put the organization that they feel that this is the only organization that seek to take their own issues to the next level.
Well, we want to see a united, prosperous society. But I think, as we say, that socialism is the future. And we must begin to, in terms of policy making and action, we must begin to lean towards exactly that. Because I think that's the only way where we can develop our country and move.
Sometimes I must be frank with you, and Younger, please respond. I'll tell you, because sometimes I hear one thing and I see the other. For instance, we all want a prosperous country, but it's divided along racial lines now, isn't it? And the rhetoric that we hear is I'm not sure how a united South Africa is going to come about if it's being divided now.
It's possible.
And how is it going to prosper if it is still dealing with its own divisions? Younger.
Ours, as a young people, it's to fight our number one enemy, which is unemployment. Young people must rise for jobs. And in doing so, we must put our differences aside. Not to say we are going to put other issues under the carpet. We must be frank, we must be bold, and we must speak the truth at all times. And I think that's the solution to all our problems at all times.
Well, and of course, continuous engagement, whether it be political or on economic issues, social issues. And I wish you all the best. And next time, also deploy your female colleagues to interviews such as this one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having been my guest. And These are representatives of DASO, SASCO, and EFF Command. When we return, we'll be talking to the man who impressed and finished as a man on crutches. We will be talking to Kolani, and you also can continue with the conversation on hashtag the Modise Network.